Tearing it open, she stroked the hard bristles and thanked Father Christmas for providing her with a dandy brush for her pony Homer. The brush was just like Lexi's. Lexi was her best friend and the daughter of the Earl and Countess who lived at the top of the hill in their castle. Descended from Italian royalty, the Countess made everyone refer to her as the Contessa, although Esme had never heard the Earl refer to his wife with anything but her English title. Lexi stabled her pony Jupiter with Homer at Sheer Farm, or in foster care as Lexi put it, because the castle stables were reserved for her mother's racehorses. Esme loved driving up to Scotland for the holidays when she could spend time with her pony and Lexi. The rolling Highlands felt 1,000,000 miles away from the hustle and bustle of London. She pulled the brush through her hair, thinking how easy it was going to make removing the encrusted mud that stuck to Homer's fetlocks like bloated ticks. He would be the smartest, shiniest pony on the hunting field. She couldn't wait to show Jimmy, the groom who ran the yard. He was always grumbling about the state of her beloved Homer. The metal wires of the electric heater clicked and creaked, glowing red hot. Esme's room was heating up nicely. In fact, she'd almost forgotten the snow that lay outside. Sliding off her bed, she tiptoed over to the window and pulled back the curtains. She scratched the frozen condensation and peered out at the magical world beyond the glass. It was as if the lodge sat within a giant snow globe, enormous clouds of the palest grey sprinkling snowflakes across a white land, blanketing its secrets in a quiet stillness. Opening her window just a fraction, Esme allowed a snowflake to land on her palm and watched it melt into a tiny puddle. She hoped the Boxing Day hunt wouldn't be cancelled. It was going to be the first time Homer didn't have to be on a leading rein. Jimmy had told her she was a good enough rider to manage on her own now. Homer would have tinsel plaited through his mane and tail, and Esme would add some to her new hat. Excited butterflies quivered in her tummy. But even if the hunt was called off, out here in the countryside it would be replaced by tobogganing, and she could exchange Homer's saddle and bridle for a harness to pull a sleigh. Returning to her presents, Esme wondered whether Father Christmas had given Homer a sheepskin saddle pad to keep his back warm, and it made him buck until it reached body temperature. Up until now, Jimmy had used an old dog blanket, which was nowhere near as smart as the quilted pad Jupiter wore. None of Lexi's riding things were hand-me-downs or makeshift. She said it was because she didn't have a big sister, but Esme knew it was because her family had more money than hers. The other presents would have to wait until later. Esme was desperate to step into the enchanted world that waited beyond the lodge walls, and she knew that once her parents were awake she'd be trapped inside until the Christmas service at Bonington Church. She grabbed some warm socks and stepped into the corridor. Beyond her room, the rest of the house was still sleeping. Pressing her eye to the keyhole of her sister's room, she could see a copy of Cupid Rides Pillion lying on the floor. Sophia was addicted to Barbara Cartland novels and was in love with the idea of falling in love. Each book provided a new hero that might one day sweep her off her feet. She must have fallen asleep reading last night, and Esme knew not to wake her if she didn't want a verbal bashing. Boarding school had made Sophia moody when she came back home, and she didn't want to do the same things as her little sister anymore. When she was on holiday, she wanted to be in London hanging out with her glamorous friends and their older brothers, rather than at the lodge. Esme had mapped out a soundproof route past her parents' bedroom years ago when she began sneaking out in the early morning hours to meet Lexi in their secret place in the woods. As she tiptoed down the corridor now, she automatically avoided the creaking floorboards that would give her away. It was so quiet she could even hear the mantel clock chiming in the drawing room. Creeping past the kitchen into the back hallway, she pulled on her Wellington boots and lifted her red Indian elkskin coat off its peg. Her father had brought it back after a trip to Canada, and it was her favourite present of all. The soft leathery outside was decorated with brightly coloured beads and pretty patterns. It had a slightly sweet, pungent smell to it, not like a rotting old rabbit carcass, but more like something dead that hadn't yet started to fester. Her father had given her moccasin slippers too, but she had quickly learned that they weren't much use outside. Esme slid back the rusty arm.